rapid calls for a house on fire.
So when you're evacuating your home, you look around and go, wait, there's no firefighters around here.
That is unique. Unique problem to solve.
On this week's episode of the Matthew Byrd Podcast.
And I looked around and said, man, look, there's Amazon, there's Dell, there's look at these companies. And I printed a resume, printed a QR code, and decided I'm going to speak to everybody here and tell them that I want a job.
Nobody had ever seen it before.
Devyn Korber, former firefighter turned entrepreneur, changed the game with a real solution for wildfire response.
We currently have 68 companies with over 500 resources available, which includes dozers, hand crews, fire engines, tenders. Something that I want to put this in a direct way, that sometimes all you have to do is ask.
If you don't ask, you're giving yourself the no. Hey guys, before we listen to the full episode, we wanted to ask, if you're liking this content, would you please subscribe to the channel and like the video? It really helps me and our team grow this podcast and bring in more awesome guests to the channel. Thank you, and back to the episode. Devyn, welcome to the studio. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Very excited to be here.
So I always love telling some background story of each person that comes in, but I also want to set the stage for what you're doing now. So give us the first paragraph of what is it that you're working on, and then we're going to go backwards.
Elevator pitch. I'm a former Wildland firefighter. There are a lot of contract firefighters out there, and we have a booking app for contract firefighters, specifically in the Wildland region. So when you're evacuating your home, commercial property, you look around and go, wait, there's no firefighters around here. There's plenty of firefighters for hire. And we are giving one-touch booking for those crews and services. That
is unique. Unique problem to solve. So before we dig deeper into the tech and kind of what you're working on now, I'd love to hear a little bit of your background story. So let's rewind a little bit.
Man, if you had met me, let's say 4 years ago, it'd be a very different person. My hair well past my shoulders, working on ski resorts, having too much fun for my own good. That's really where I thought it was all going, fresh out of high school, coming out of Boise, really looking to ski and maybe surf in the summers.
Yep.
And I didn't really have plans to go to college right away, and I had the grades for it, not necessarily the money for it.
Yep.
And I ended up finding Wildland Fire after about a season working at a ski resort. It's a pretty common thing that wildland firefighters do. They work during the summer and they go ski all winter.
Nice.
Did that for a season, came back, and I had a sales job, actually. And I would say this is my first experience as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I was a contractor selling point-of-sale software. And what that looked like here in Boise was walking door to door in small businesses and building these skills of, I think I was 19 years old.
Okay.
Going and asking business owners, hey, can I talk to you about your credit card processing fees? Can I sell to you, essentially? They're looking at me as this little 19-year-old kid, ski bum, long hair, like, who are you and what are you doing here? And that was a really favorable experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But there was also a lot of downside. There was a lot of negative. I ended up getting caught with the situation that my business partner and the person who would fulfill the services that I was offering skipped town and took money from services that I went and sold. As a 19-year-old kid with no more than you can imagine. That was tough.
That is rough.
And I was kind of turned off to the idea of business because of that. And I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was like, I don't want to chase money. I don't want to do it for those reasons. And during that time, I went back to work Wildland Fire, and I went on a trip to Aspen, Colorado for X Games a few years back.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a great time. Made some friends and met up with some people from my past and everything. And turns out there was a little school just outside of Aspen that I saw, just on a little sign, Colorado Mountain College. And I went and looked at it and I said, man, I want to go to school here. So I applied, went through the process, broke my ankle just a few weeks before being admitted and going there. Moved to Colorado and in my Subaru with nothing but a pair of crutches. And I found my way, and I studied environmental studies there. I was there for a semester, and I loved Colorado. It was an amazing place, but housing was very difficult, I would say. I had to make a pivot away from Colorado just because, for many reasons.
Yep.
And I found my way to Sun Valley, Idaho. And it wasn't my first time in Sun Valley. I worked on the ski resort there once again, managed Dollar Mountain rental shop.
Nice.
That was an experience as well. But the Sun Valley is for Wildland Fire. And it wasn't for a federal or state fire. I didn't know who was like really in incident command. And it turned out an insurance paying for our services. Little did I know, fast forward a couple of years, that I would have a startup in the space making these crews more accessible to insurance companies, commercial property owners, and anyone who needs them. So the development there, I came back from Sun Valley, worked another season of Wildland Fire, and I decided to come to BSU, where I originally was studying chemistry.
Okay.
Decided I didn't want to work in a lab.
Yep.
And I decided on electrical and computer engineering. Don't ask me why I chose that one. I think the simple answer would be all of the most successful people in my life have jobs in the field, and I saw a path forward.
Okay.
That wasn't a broke ski bum.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it seems like the process of most college students is like trying different things. You see people shift direction a lot, trying to figure out what is it that I really want to do, what's pulling my interest, what do I see as an opportunity. So you got into that program and then what?
Yeah, I think this is very close to when our paths crossed for the first time.
Which is fun, and I think a lot of people that watch this may not remember you specifically until you unpack this the rest of the story. I think I still had the
long hair at the time.
Yeah.
I think that was about that time. So I had been bartending for the company that caters for BSU.
Yep.
This includes football games, basketball games, Morrison Center events.
Yep.
And where I found myself backstage bartending for Reality Capture Network.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. And it was funny. Were you at that time like taking your resume out everywhere, or was this a unique experience where you brought your resume while you were bartending at the conference? You were talking to people about opportunities and you had a QR code and it was an inspired moment. I was doing multiple things to look for internships and jobs, and I'd finally gotten enough experience to where I thought, you know what, I could provide value in this role, and I can build a website and I could do a couple things, and starting to get the knowledge I would need to like come to someone like you and say, hey, I want a job at the time. And I got into this room the first night and I looked around and said, man, look, there's Amazon, there's Dell, there's like, look at these companies. And those were some of the ones that caught my eye. Little did I know there was so many more that I could be a viable role for. So day 2, I went and I printed a resume, printed a QR code for my LinkedIn and for my tips, a little Venmo QR code as well, and decided I'm going to speak to everybody here and tell them that I want a job. That is funny and awesome. You you ended up getting a lot of attention from everybody at the conference. And that's one thing I love talking about is outside of technology specifically, which is a lot of what, our community at RCN is focused on is the actual emerging technologies and how they're applied. I love talking about the other side of like entrepreneurship, and not even just entrepreneurship, but like taking action and stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing things other people don't want to do because it gets you attention or opportunities that others won't get. And how many bartenders are printing and bringing a resume, trying to get, nobody had ever seen it before. And so people were taking pictures of it. People were posting it on LinkedIn, trying to support you in the efforts of like showing up and talking and asking. And it was a really cool situation.
That level of confirmation and affirmation, I think, has affected and waterfalled into so many other areas of my life in confidence, and something that I want to put this like in a direct way, that sometimes all you have to do is ask.
Yes. Yeah.
It goes so far.
I've heard so many quotes and sayings and things around topics like this. One of them being, if you don't ask, you're giving yourself the no, right? And I always also go back to the Wayne Gretzky hockey, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
People are so willing to help young and willing entrepreneurs and just people in general,
Yep.
college students, anyone who's willing to go and put effort forward.
Yep.
The 18-year-old that walks into your business trying to sell you something, you're kind of curious of who is this kid
Yeah.
and what's he doing?
Yeah.
It's all the same nature. People are willing to help, especially if you just show, I have a good nature. I'm not trying to steal from you. I'm
Yep.
doing the right thing. People are willing to help you.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and I experience it as, I've been in a business ownership role the last 10 years, hiring employees and stuff. And you hear people all the time talk about young people nowadays, or they're lazy. Nobody wants to work. And actually, in some ways, that's true. There are a lot of people that are. To be different and to stand out, like sometimes it's as small as taking the action, having confidence, being willing to actually ask or walk up and talk, or sometimes it's those basic things. You don't have to have a huge resume and degrees and, 10 years of experience. And sometimes it's like, are you good at the basics? Will you show up? Will you work hard? Will you, those things can get you so far.
I got an internship to follow this for a Fortune 500 logistics company in a software engineering role that I had no qualifications for. I had taken my first computer science class, written a couple hundred lines of code, and that was right about the time ChatGPT came out. So I ChatGPT'd the other half of those lines, and they looked at me and said, "Hey, we see that you can struggle through any problem. We see that you're willing to learn, and we think you'd be a good fit."
Yep.
So I flew out for an entire summer to this, and now I've been working for them still continuously for going on 2 years now.
That's awesome.
Since then.
Yeah.
There's been other opportunities within the reality capture space, and even follow-ups from LinkedIn from the reality capture people that say, "Hey, are you still looking for a job?"
Yeah.
And I'm in the position now where I can say, I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different scenario than the first time we met.
Yeah. That's very cool. It's
From work.
been, yeah. I mean, just a couple years watching some of that change. So you were in Wildland firefighting and you saw a potential opportunity. And now let's unpack a little bit more about the startup you're working on.
Yeah. We started in this realm of how can we service crews? I cared about contractors. I still feel they're an underserved group and demographic. They're treated as second class in the wildland world. They're not hotshot crews. They're not federal or state. Their call is when needed, and they feel that way too. So we were looking into a way to service these crews in time off requests and balancing their books and basically all the day-to-day HR stuff within a wildland company because it's a specific need. We did find that it is a small market.
Yeah.
And I know so many contractors now from exploring and
Yep.
market research conversations. And the one thing they kept coming back to is, this is great. This could kind of help. But what we really need is more resource orders. We want to provide our service more times per year.
That's actually what comes to mind for me that I'm kind of curious about, because you're in this area and you've worked in it, you've had the conversations, you've done the market research. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't really know it was a thing that existed, right? Is like, what happens when there's a fire? You assume you just call 911 and get the fire department or something.
I can tell you how it really works.
Yeah. So yeah, what is the actual, group, or how are these people organized, and how do you actually request them?
Yeah. So Wildland Fire is a complicated system, and it's dynamic and changing, but a lot of the things have been the same for the last 50 years, especially in the bureaucratic process that we see. You call 911. 911 dispatch goes, it's outside of 6 miles from our nearest fire department. We need to go to a wildland resource. From there, they have to find a resource. So they'll go within their local boundaries. If there's none available within their local boundaries, they go to a state level. Then they go to let's call it a district or service level of like Oregon, Washington, or service areas.
Okay.
And then from there, they go to a national interagency, NIFC. And from there, they go back down the chain. And each one of these steps have a conversation or a person checking.
Yeah.
So this can go through 10, 12 people before you actually even dispatch the first crew to go on site. And it's hard to challenge that status quo. It's hard to replace that system. But what is more possible is the private sector.
Yep.
Where this system already exists. Insurance companies are not only hiring outside crews, but it's so cost effective that they are creating internal crews. They're willing to go buy trucks, train firefighters, create complete internal systems, because the rewards from saving these properties is that high.
Yeah. Yeah. So currently, apart from the government entities or process, if you call them one, there are just contract fire crews. Yeah.
So there is a number of fire resources out there. The government's first choice will be type 1 hotshot crews. That's you're familiar with who those are. And then also engine resources, but these are actual, let's say, government entities.
Yep.
And then when we overextend our government entities, we go to our contractors with either blanket contracts or call as when needed contracts. And they're used very often. And they're expensive.
Yeah.
Those are probably the two things. They're the government's last choice. So they are benched. They're on the sideline pretty often.
Yeah.
And it is expensive to keep a crew on standby.
Sure.
So they are always looking for more business.
Yep.
So if you know somebody, or if you happen to have a phone number of these contractors and your home is in wildfire danger, you could call them and hire them. The problem is it's such a large and dynamic group of people. Some are out, some are in.
Yeah.
You need a network of them to be able to say, I have 10 contractors, 20 contractors that I can call.
Yep.
And the first one that's available who's closest and cheapest, I will hire.
Yeah.
That's where FireCall, our web service, comes in.
That's cool. That's awesome. I'm curious how what actually sparked the idea for you of creating a company around this, right? There's a lot of people that think about cool ideas. There's very few that are willing to take the steps and the risk and the labor and to actually say, I'm going to try to build a company. How'd you get on that journey?
It was a hard choice and an easy choice. I think the easy part was I have served tables and other things and worked courtside and worked in these high net worth circles.
Yep.
Even backstage bartending.
Yeah.
And I look at who's in that room, and it's either people that are in the absolute top of their field on a technology level or business owners.
Yeah.
Courtside at BSU basketball games. You know who sits there? Business owners.
Yeah.
You know how many I swipe cards and all I see is the name of the business on it?
Yeah.
You look at that and go, okay, they're there. I'm here. How do I get there? And the answer was very clear to me that owning a business is the only way that I foresee doing that. And so I was going to do it with an idea. This one just fell into my lap at the right time, right place.
Yep.
Which is so backwards in a lot of ways, because anyone in the moment would have said, you need to go to college. You need to take the straightforward path. Go study electrical and computer engineering right now and go take the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would have never had this background in Wildland that allows me to now have a startup and possibly make it my entire career.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also a unique path and and it follows what I think is some of the framework for someone building a successful company, is that you worked actually in the field and saw certain problems in that niche or industry and found a way to solve a problem that you have seen or experienced, where there's a lot of people who come up with the ideas sitting in a room, right? Sitting in a conference room and ideating of like, what problem can we solve? If you haven't experienced some of the pain or been in that industry, there's a lot of unknowns that you've never faced, you don't understand. So I think a lot of successful founders come from experiencing something in an industry, then dissecting a problem they think they can solve.
Something we come back to in the startup very regularly in our meetings, I like to say the answer is not in this room.
Yeah.
Because it's never is.
Yeah.
Whatever question you're asking, come up with a question in that room and then go and find the answer with people who are experiencing it. Because this echo chamber effect that we get when you're dealing with 3 founders, a couple people working, or any small business or venture, it doesn't work in your favor to just spin in circles. And everyone's ego gets in the way. My ego gets in the way. At some point in time, we have to go, okay, let's go talk to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we find real value. And that's where we've actually made the biggest leaps and bounds and made progress both on product market fit and just overall progress and traction for our startup.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to always trying to be the not the smartest person in the room.
You're failing if you're the smartest person in the room.
You always want to go find other people that are experts in their lane or other areas and absorb from them and read from them and watch things from them and let that feed what it is you're trying to do and maybe influence pieces of it. It's a very valuable thing to have that as the mindset, especially as a founder trying to build a platform or a software or the best thing you can do is find out the pain points from the people living it, asking as you make decisions.
It's about being the right job for the right person. And for me, I'm finding what my role is within this company and also trusting my co-founders to do things that I originally wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And saying that I've seen you have a strength in this field. I trust you. Do it. I think you're completely competent. And then in this field, let me take the lead.
Yeah.
In choosing when to do these things.
Yeah. You can say as little or much as you want here. But I do have to ask it since you came up with it. How has founding with partners been?
Good. Yeah. It's always hard because all 3 of us are still undergrad students. We all have things on our plate.
Yep.
And we come back to we're not all in, to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
Because for me, what all in means is that I have nothing else. I am singular focused.
Yeah.
I still have an internship with a Fortune 500 company. I still have part-time classes, and I still have a life.
Yeah.
I think being a tech founder, we talk about the 996 schedule, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, and I'm not doing it. I'm just not right now. I think there probably is a time for it where I'm spending my whole time on it, but I'm still hedging.
Yeah. 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 And that's a hard journey. It's a hard transition to make. It's when you decide to go all in, it's riskier. It's, and you're juggling a lot, right? If, still in school, still working toward graduating. There's a little bit of collaboration within BSU, within Boise State, with what you're doing. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's a new program to BSU, and this is a huge shout out to the program, is Sandbox. So it's based out of Utah. Chris Crittenden has come up with this program here that allows computer science and business students to form tech startups and get college credit for it.
That's cool.
A lot of them are getting the entrepreneur emphasis on the computer science side and being able to graduate on time while spending 8 months of their life dedicating to the startup. And that's the reason that I'm able to balance all these things. If I added 6 credits of other electrical engineering courses right now, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I've been able to stay on track. I've been able to do it because of this program. And I think it is probably the most valuable part of my education so far.
That's very cool. What types of things do you get help with or collaborate on within university around like how to build a business or the startup itself?
I think advisors are probably the number one access and resource that we have through them. We have weekly class and lectures of going over some of the most important things, including product market fit and founding sales and whose roles are what, and like a lot of those functional things that we would never learn in college in the first place.
Yep.
But I think the greater part of it is this source of accountability from your advisors.
Yeah.
Both the director of the program, the professor of the class, and the HQ personnel, they call them, who will check in and say, hey, what have you done? How many hours have you been putting in? And are you there?
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I'm curious if you read much. Do you read? Do you watch podcasts? Do you, like, apart from school and the people you're directly connected with, do you do much kind of personal development or learning on your own?
I like to read, but it's been a little bit on the back burner as of recently.
Cool.
It's been a textbook, to be honest with you.
You still reading
any of that luxury time is pretty much been textbook time at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any online content, like other, business owner, entrepreneur stuff, like that you try to learn from as you're building? Or?
I am surprisingly outside of what I would call social media circles or like the YouTube rabbit holes.
Cool.
It really is like there's three main functions that I do on a regular basis, and it's make sales calls.
Yep.
Write code.
Yep.
And collab with my founders.
Cool.
And then outside of that, it's just class.
Cool. Yeah.
And startup and my internship. Yeah.
There's no wrong answer with that either. I early on in my career, I didn't listen to stuff. I didn't watch books. I didn't follow other entrepreneurs. It was like early into starting my first company. I was 23, 24 when I started following other people online and learning and I don't think it's necessary. I do think there's value I found in it for sure, because you talk about wanting to learn from other people who've done something successful, right? And surrounding yourself with people who you can get advice from and mentorship from. And what I started realizing is some really successful people are very, very open and visible online. They are in interviews all the time. They're talking about how they built. They talk about building teams. They talk about, investments. They talk about management. They talk about leadership. And what I started realizing is like, I have a certain amount of access to people I can physically find and meet in person to try to get this info from. But online, I'm picking all these people that are 10 times ahead of where I want to be, that have done it, who are willing to unpack how they did it. And I always talk about this around mentorship is like, I call those people my mentors. Some of them may not know I exist yet. Mentorship is like somebody you look up to who has done something successful that you can learn from. I don't think they even have to know who you are. If they're making the content, to me, those were my mentors. I watched people like Gary Vee. You probably know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. People like that where it's like they're so visible, they talk so much. I always tell people, take things with a grain of salt. You may love or hate some of them. Some of them you don't agree with, but I learned so much by following people like him online. It's what inspired me to say I could do a podcast. Like the continuous message and showing and proving of like, you can build this online content around anything. People want to learn from other successful people. So I always encourage, especially startups or founders or young people, like one of the best ways to learn is not get lost on the scroll, right, in TikTok, whatever, on entertainment stuff, but like find other successful leaders and business owners, influencers that are online and, consume half an hour of content. At night or in the mornings or on a run or whenever it is. You can watch some of those. You can listen to some of those. I think that you gain information that you literally can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, I think there's value in a couple different things there. People have a lifetime of knowledge, which they can compress in a way that they think is most consumable by the next person.
Yep.
And if you can take a lifetime of knowledge and take a couple things out of it,
Yep.
do that on a regular basis, there'll be major gains.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I see as the benefit of all the online content. And part of why I'm starting to do it is in one day, I could go sit and consume an hour of advice from 10 different business owners that have 1,000 employees, right? How much value can I get from those leaders who are willing to share their tips and what they've learned? And it's so accessible. It's so accessible. I don't have to know them. I don't have to call them on the phone. I don't have to pay them for consulting. So many of them are willing to give knowledge for free because it's truly helping people, but it's also building their credibility, their awareness, and this goes back to why I talk to people about building on LinkedIn, and the influence that I've been able to create is whether you're a business owner and a founder or an entrepreneur, or you're an employee, it really doesn't matter either of those. By building a community, by building content, by building awareness, you're becoming known in some capacity. People can't buy from you if they don't know you exist.
Yeah.
People can't hire you if they don't know you exist. So this online game, it's not something to waste time on, but if you do it properly, it completely can fuel your career, whether you're an employee in a role and you want to build, or you want to increase sales, or you want to start something.
Yeah, going down the creator route is very interesting to me, and I've been building a network within LinkedIn, and these posts are getting traction, and I'm seeing rewards from it directly. Yep. And this is on a small scale. We're talking a couple thousand views here and there and engagement, but the community in which I'm operating in is so small.
Oh yeah,
so small. We're talking, everyone involved is probably less than 40,000 people.
Yep.
That even know this thing exists.
Yeah.
And we're talking about contract owners. There's probably 300 to 500 of them. You can personally shake hands with 300 to 500 people, but one post and you engage with all of them.
Yes. Yeah. And I love, people talking about like engagement rates and how many views, whatever. And anybody could start online, start doing posts and get 100 views per post, 500 views per post, 1,000 views per post. And a lot of people, because there's other people who get way more, they look at that as like, oh, it's not reaching much. And you're like, wait a minute.
Put 1,000 people in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen a room with 100 people in it? That's a decent audience.
Yeah.
If it's the right audience. 200, 300, 400, 500. That's a lot of people who sees everything you do. And so if you, especially with LinkedIn, if you purposefully build your network with the right community, the right audience, the right types of clients or individuals that are in your space, over a year time span, you'd have half of the people in your entire market.
Yeah. And a lot of this is them just seeing your face and just seeing who you are, because that's who they trust and that's who they're willing to go to. So that first introduction becomes a lot smoother too.
Yeah.
Actually happened a couple of times. So as of recent, my team went to a couple different conferences that are specific wildfire based. We went to Red Sky Summit in San Francisco, which felt like a huge accomplishment for us.
That's cool.
And thank you to Convective Capital, the one putting it on, because I asked, hey, like, I'm a bootstrap team, college students, can we come out? And they said, yeah, here you go. Here's
That's awesome.
And it was an expensive ticket, and they just pass it on, just like you guys.
Back to your point earlier about you have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was numerous individuals out there through LinkedIn, which I post, hey, I'm going to Red Sky, you guys want to meet? And I met 3 or 4 pretty influential people just directly from that.
Yeah.
And that's worth spending time and posting if you got 3 or 4 of those connections, let alone dozens or hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah. It can take one right connection to change a business, change a career, change a life.
We have one of those. We have one of those in the pipeline that, like customer acquisition costs, we'd be willing to pay thousands of dollars for this one interaction. And it was just a handful of LinkedIn posts, building the right network and reaching out. And this person could genuinely affect the trajectory of a startup.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Exciting.
What, out of all the things you've done the last year or two, what would you say has been the most difficult part of building a startup?
Everybody wants a piece of your attention. And when you give your attention to anyone or anything, you have to do it wholly in that moment. Trying to do two things at once never goes well.
Yeah.
And so I've had a lot of moments where, well, I need to do this meeting. I need to write some code for the startup. I have a class assignment due, and I'm trying to do them simultaneously, and that just doesn't work. So I think dedicated attention time in my Google Calendar has been the most difficult piece because I have to have consolidated attention.
Yeah.
And that includes family and friends too.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be like, hey, my friend, let's hang out, but I also need to write code for the startup while we do this.
Yeah.
Some friends are super cool with that,
Yeah.
but other ones are definitely not.
Yeah.
So like that's probably been the hardest part.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship and startup life is not for the faint of heart. It is not for people who want the easy path. It is a difficult route, especially to do it well, because you sacrifice. You have to sacrifice things to dedicate time to really make something work. And most people, I think, that start out trying to be a business owner or be an entrepreneur, most of them don't think that going into it. You know, I think nowadays a lot of society, and especially with social media influence stuff, a lot of people see entrepreneurship as like, well, I saw this guy who has a Lamborghini and he said it's really easy and works 4 hours a week. You're like, that's not what true entrepreneurship and founders and startups, and that's not what it looks like.
No.
You work twice as hard, twice as long for half the pay. You have to really believe in what you're doing, why you're doing it, the vision for it. Otherwise, you won't succeed. You'll fail. You'll realize these different sacrifices and the choices and I think that's why some of the statistics for small businesses closing or failing in a certain amount of time is misaligned expectations of what that's really going to take.
I'd rather work 16 hours in a day for myself than 8 hours for someone else.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what the check is.
Yep.
If you round out probably in my entire career, unless this thing goes absolutely exponential, choosing to work for someone else would have paid more in the grand scale of things.
Yep.
It's really about more than that.
Yeah.
And the autonomy, that is huge to me. And
Yeah.
being able to do what I want, when I want to, with whoever I want to.
Yep.
And not having some boss with their little business degree
Yeah.
who spent some years in their career be able to control my life.
Yeah.
For that sole
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't fly with me. I think that I can expect more out of myself and my team
Yeah.
to where we can build something that is sustainable and can, have a real lifestyle in the future. And
Yep.
I think we're the right people at the right time to do this thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it takes those types of mindsets going into it of like, I know I might not make as much. I know it might take longer. I know I'm going to have to work harder. If you know those things going into it and you're willing to push through the difficulties and the struggles and the late nights and the ups and downs, what most very successful people say, I recently was talking with someone that's like, I've talked with 5 billionaires, what's the most common trait between all of them is not quitting. It wasn't that what they first started creating was this mind-blowing thing and it just blew up out of nowhere, went viral, whatever. It was that they kept going. It's the consistency through the difficulties over an extended period of time that let them truly build. Most people, it goes back to like a lot of people, they don't like the discomfort. They don't like the difficulties. They don't like the struggles or the unknowns. And so they revert back to, I'd rather have stability and ease than the risk versus the reward.
Yeah, risk profile. And if you look at me as a stock or bond right now, I'm a penny stock that could return huge, and my losses are minimal.
Yeah.
So we're really, and there is a compounding effect here that even if it's not this one, it's the next one.
Yeah.
I've now been in meetings as a 23-year-old as of next week with venture capitalists.
Yeah.
And been in meetings with multimillionaires who are serial entrepreneurs, both in the tech space and in the wildfire space. And who can really say that as a 22-year-old?
Yeah.
That's rare. And the only reason I'm there is because I ask, I keep on showing up. And the first 3 ideas that were horrible, I didn't just go, oh, well, that's it. We kept going. And we are going to continue going. And these conversations won't just be, hi, nice to meet you. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. It's going to be, hey, are you ready for my service yet?
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's been cool to watch your journey unpack a bit. So what's the roadmap look like for you over the next 2-3 years, you think?
Fire season 26 is make or break in some extent. We're going to go out and chase fire a little bit.
Yep.
We have a service and we have the infrastructure and we have the people. We currently have 68 companies with over 500 resources available, which includes dozers, hand crews, fire engines, tenders. Oh, I think we have a hand washing station.
Wow.
It's all the fire contractors and it's the same people. And you get one of these companies and they'll have, hey, I have 8 engines, 2 hand crews, and a bunch of dozers. Like, you guys can hire me whenever you're ready. So there's 2 major things that we need to make possible for fire season 2026, and it's handling transactions of this scale.
Yep.
We can handle transactions right now of down payments and stuff, but we're looking at contracts of upwards of $300,000, $400,000.
Yeah.
So we need to handle that in a broker-like way where we handle the transaction, insure the transaction, and pass on the payment to the contractor.
Yeah.
So that includes bank conversations, advisor conversations, and a couple of other factors.
Yeah.
Once that's set up, I think all our B's are in a line for the software to actually function. So it's going to be a marketing campaign.
Yep.
And our go-to-market is multifaceted. So we're going through the communities that are actually in fire exposure or recently burned to Nextdoor app, Facebook groups, kind of guerrilla marketing.
Yep.
And then also to the fire safe councils and communities, which are in exposure areas. So they're actually forming these groups themselves. There's an overall association that's like a national level. And a group of community members come together and they say, hey, let's look for solutions that help our area. And a lot of them do fuel prevention and some other things, or hire landscapers to remove bushes that are at risk. But there isn't really an active fire or real fuel prevention at scale solution.
Yep.
There's a couple that do like wood chipper days and some other things. But the scale that we're doing this is a completely different thing. We can create an 80 or 100 foot fuel gap between you and fire country in hours.
Yeah.
And that service doesn't really exist in a commercial or scalable way. It's your buddy that owns a contractor that you happen to know, but most people don't even know they exist.
Yes.
So creating brand awareness for us is going to be huge within the next probably 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Proof of concept first year, get some fire calls, get some money, and make it work. And then year 2, 3 building to say, hey, when this happens, we're who you go to.
Yes.
And we have the solution. We've worked it out. We've found the kinks. Everything works.
Yeah.
So that's probably our 2 to 3 year.
Okay. A couple questions around that again, and for clarity for listening to. The property owner calls and pays for you, and or does insurance actually pay for, or what does that process look like?
Right now, the target is people who are actually owning the properties because the insurance companies are hesitant to pay out checks.
Yeah.
I think in the near future, those who are doing it will find our service useful.
Yep.
But it is hard to convince an insurance company to do it for the first time because they ask for data that we currently don't have. They want case studies to say this property would have burned, but because of this X reduction, there has been this reward.
Yeah.
And they need their 1 to 6 rule, and they need numbers to put to our service.
Yeah.
If you're in the field, it's obvious.
Yeah.
We're seeing homes saved by people with garden hoses.
Yeah.
Now imagine you have a Type 3 engine with a 500-gallon tank, foam, and can spray down your house, and has 3 firefighters who are qualified to do so.
Yeah.
It's obvious. So as a homeowner or a commercial property owner, there's a peace of mind to it as well, to where you're evacuating your property.
Yeah.
There's fire coming. There's no one here.
Yeah.
Because that's really how it is. Like, people always assume that, like, oh, the fire people are coming, we're going to be taken care of. But these fires are at a scale that you cannot imagine.
Yeah.
And there's so many resources trying to save life and community that your resort, your place, your large ranch is a second thought. If we can, we get there.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a specific service for you to order when you need it.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to watching as you guys continue to build. It's been cool so far.
Yeah, we're really excited, and we're thankful for the exposure as well.
Of course. Yeah. That's part of our hope is, telling stories of founders, of journeys, of using tech. But also part of the benefit of that is also awareness building, right? And I think there's something really cool when there's scenarios like this. And I mentioned to you, we've had a couple other from the fire industry on the podcast in the past. And I think something that's unique about them that we've talked about is like, sure, we could talk about the latest, drone or 3D mapper or whatever, but the fire industry is a place that's actually trying to save lives, save property. It's really cool when you find a startup that's working on something that is not just about the technology, but it's actually something that benefits, society and people. And yeah, it's a cool gap you're trying to fill.
And there's more people in this space than you would think on the wildfire tech space, specifically in reality capture work.
Yeah.
Doing computer vision, doing fuel reduction estimations, risk scoring properties, or even low aerial flyovers.
Yep.
We're seeing a lot of plane work where they're doing IR and they're adding like several layers of information to be able to enrich it for ground resources. And you wouldn't really know that if you hadn't met these people or you weren't in this community. There's two thought processes. You would think that should already exist.
Yeah.
Or what? Why is someone doing that?
Exactly. Yeah. And, the more that we talk with people from different niches, different industries, the more you realize there are so many problems that emerging tech in whole can help solve or improve and it's endless. And it takes people being creative, being curious, finding these problems and thinking, hey, if we put A and B together, we can solve C. It takes that creativity to change how it's always been done, right? What it was the last 50 years isn't what it has to be the next 10.
It's combinatorics. It really is. It's about where your niche is. So you have a skill set, for me, computer science, logistics, wildland fire, and you find the overlap.
Yep.
And you find a need and make those things align, and you thread the needle, and you might find yourself a business out of it.
Yep. It's very cool. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing today. I'm sure it won't be the last time we see you, and look forward to watching you guys continue.
By all means, thank you very much.
Thank you.